The stars looked different from this side of the galaxy. Princess Yuri had seen many star systems in her 300 years of life. But she had never seen stars like these. They were small and far away, like tiny drops of white paint on a black cloth. Her ship was broken. The engines were dead. She was falling toward a small blue planet that her computer called Earth. Yuri was a Drakari. Her people were tall and strong. They had scales that covered their skin like armor. Their eyes glowed like fire. They had wings that could carry them through the sky. They were dragons in the shape of people. And they ruled over 200 worlds. But none of that mattered now. Yuri was alone. She was weak. She was dying. The coup had happened 3 days ago. Her uncle, Lord Tejo, had killed her father, the Emperor. He had taken the throne for himself. Yuri had escaped only because her personal guard, a loyal soldier named Junho, had given his life to buy her time. She remembered his last words. Run, princess. Live. Find help. Come back stronger. But there was no help coming. There was no one left to trust. Her uncle had turned the entire empire against her. He told everyone that she had killed her father. He put a price on her head. Every bounty hunter in the galaxy was looking for her now. Yuri looked at her hands. Her scales were losing their shine. They were turning gray and dull. This was what happened when a Drakari did not eat. Her people did not eat food, like other species. They ate nutrient paste. It was a thick gray substance that gave them everything their bodies needed. It had no taste. It had no smell. It was just fuel for their bodies. Nothing more. She had run out of nutrient paste 2 days ago. Her body was shutting down. She could feel her strength leaving her like water draining from a broken cup. Her wings felt heavy. Her eyes were losing their glow. She was starving to death. The ship entered the atmosphere of the blue planet. Fire surrounded her. The heat was terrible. But Yuri was too weak to care. She just sat in her chair and watched through the window. The flames were almost beautiful, orange and red and yellow, dancing around her dying ship. The ship crashed into a forest. Trees broke and fell. Metal screamed and twisted. Yuri was thrown from her seat. She hit the wall hard and fell to the floor. Everything went black. When she opened her eyes again, it was night. The ship was in pieces around her. Smoke was rising from the broken engines. She could see the sky through a hole in the roof. Strange stars looked down at her. She was alone on an alien world with no food, no ship, and no hope. Yuri crawled out of the wreckage. Her body screamed in pain. Her left wing was broken. Her scales were cracked in several places. Dark blood dripped from her wounds. But she kept moving. She did not know why. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it was the memory of Junho's words. Live. Find help. The forest was dark and quiet. Strange sounds came from the shadows. Small creatures ran away when they saw her. She did not blame them. She knew what she looked like. A monster. A beast from the stars. She walked for what felt like hours. Her legs grew weaker with every step. Her vision was getting blurry. The hunger was a fire in her stomach, burning her from the inside. She had never felt anything like it. On her homeworld, no Drakari ever felt true hunger. The nutrient paste was always there, always available, always the same. Finally, her legs gave out. She fell to the ground at the edge of the forest. In front of her was a clearing. She could see a small house with lights in the windows. It looked warm. It looked safe, but it was too far. She could not reach it. Yuri lay on the cold ground and looked up at the sky. This was it. This was how she would die. Not in battle like a warrior. Not on her throne like an empress. She would die in the dirt on an unknown planet, forgotten by everyone. Her uncle would win. Her father's death would go unavenged. Everything she had ever known would disappear. A tear rolled down her face. It was hot against her cold skin. She did not remember the last time she had cried. Drakari did not cry. They were strong. They were proud. They did not show weakness. But none of that mattered now. She was not a princess anymore. She was just a dying creature, alone and afraid. She thought about her life. She thought about her father, the great emperor who had ruled with wisdom and kindness. She thought about her mother, who had died when Yuri was young. She thought about the palace where she grew up, with its tall towers and golden walls. She thought about the servants who had raised her, the teachers who had taught her, the guards who had protected her. All gone now, all of it. The cold was getting worse. Her body was shutting down faster. She could feel her heart slowing. Her breathing was getting shallow. The darkness was creeping in from the edges of her vision. Then she heard something. Footsteps, coming closer. She tried to move, but her body would not obey. She tried to speak, but no words came out. All she could do was lie there and wait. A light appeared, bright and yellow. It hurt her eyes. She heard a voice. It was speaking a language she did not understand. The words were strange and soft, not like the harsh sounds of the Drakari tongue. A face appeared above her. It was a male creature. He had no scales. His skin was smooth and brown. His eyes were dark and round. His hair was black and short. He looked at her with an expression she did not recognize. It was not fear. It was not anger. It was something else. Something she had never seen before. The creature spoke again. His voice was gentle. He reached out and touched her face. His hand was warm. So warm. She had never felt anything so warm in her entire life. She tried to say something. Please. Help. Anything. But all that came out was a weak sound. Like a wounded animal. The creature nodded. He seemed to understand. He put his arms under her body and lifted her up. He was strong for his size. Stronger than she expected. He carried her toward the house with the warm lights. Yuri did not know what was happening. She did not know if this creature was friend or enemy. But she was too weak to fight. Too weak to run. All she could do was let him carry her. As they got closer to the house, she smelled something. It was coming from inside. It was a smell she had never experienced before. Rich and deep and complex. It made her stomach twist. It made her mouth water. She did not understand what it was, but some deep part of her wanted it, needed it. Then the darkness took her, and she knew nothing more. Han was making dinner when he heard the crash. The whole house shook. The pots on the stove rattled. His daughter Nari looked up from her coloring book with wide eyes. "What was that, Papa?" she asked. Han did not know. He told Nari to stay inside, and went out to look. He took a flashlight and walked toward the forest behind his house. He had lived in this small town his whole life. Nothing exciting ever happened here. Just quiet days and peaceful nights. But tonight was different. He found the strange ship first. It was like nothing he had ever seen. Metal and glass, twisted and broken. Smoke was rising from it. Strange lights were flickering inside. Han stood there for a long moment, just staring. His mind could not understand what his eyes were seeing. Then he found her. She was lying at the edge of the forest, just a few meters from his backyard. At first, he thought she was dead. Her body was still. Her eyes were closed. But then he saw her chest move. Just a little. She was breathing. Han knelt down beside her and looked at her face. She was not human. That was clear. Her skin was covered in scales, like a snake or a lizard. But the scales were beautiful. They shimmered in the light of his flashlight. Purple and silver and blue, like precious stones. She had wings. They were folded against her back, but he could see them clearly. One of them was bent at a wrong angle. Broken. She had pointed ears and sharp teeth. Her hair was long and white, spread out around her head like a fan. Han should have been afraid. He should have run away. He should have called someone, the police, the government, anyone. But he did not. He looked at her face and saw something that made him stay. Pain, fear, loneliness. She looked like someone who had lost everything. He knew that look. He had seen it in his own mirror 3 years ago. After his wife Mina died, Han made a decision. He put his arms under the strange creature and lifted her up. She was heavier than she looked. The scales made her body hard and solid. But Han was strong. He worked in construction. He carried heavy things every day. He brought her to his house and laid her down on the couch in the living room. Nari was standing in the doorway, watching with curious eyes. "Papa, who is that?" she asked. "I don't know, little one," Han said. "But she needs help." Nari walked closer and looked at the creature's face. She was not afraid. Children were like that sometimes. They did not have the fears that adults had. They saw the world with open eyes and open hearts. "She's pretty," Nari said. "Like a dragon," Han smiled. His daughter loved dragons. She had dragon toys, dragon books, dragon pictures on her wall. To her, this creature was not a monster. She was a dream come true. Han got his first aid kit and tried to help the creature's wounds. He cleaned the cuts on her skin. He tried to bandage the cracks in her scales. He did not know if he was doing it right. He did not know anything about this kind of being, but he did his best. The creature's eyes opened once, just for a moment. They glowed like fire, orange and bright. She looked at Han with confusion and fear. She tried to speak, but the words that came out were strange, a language Han had never heard. "It's okay," Han said softly. "You're safe. I won't hurt you." She seemed to understand his tone, if not his words. Her eyes closed again, and she fell back into sleep. Han sat with her all night. He did not sleep. He just watched her breathe and wondered what had happened to her. Where did she come from? Why was she here? Why was she so hurt? Nari fell asleep on the floor next to the couch. She had refused to go to bed. She wanted to stay with the dragon lady, she said. Han covered her with a blanket and let her stay. In the morning, the creature was still asleep. Her breathing was weak. Her skin was cold. Han knew she was sick, but he did not know how to help her. He could not take her to a hospital. They would take her away. They would put her in a lab somewhere. They would treat her like a thing, not a person. He made breakfast for Nari, rice and soup and eggs. The smell filled the small house. As he was cooking, he heard a sound from the living room. A weak voice. Trying to speak, he went to check on the creature. Her eyes were open. They were not glowing anymore. They were dull and tired. She was looking at him with a desperate expression. "Food," she said. Her voice was rough. The word was broken and strange, but Han understood it. Need. Food. Han nodded. He went back to the kitchen and prepared a bowl of soup. It was simple. Just vegetables and broth and a little rice. He brought it to her and helped her sit up. She looked at the bowl with confusion. She sniffed it. Her nose wrinkled. She seemed unsure. "Eat," Han said. He mimed putting food in his mouth. "It will help you." She took the bowl in her shaking hands. She lifted it to her lips and took a small sip. Then she stopped. Her eyes went wide. Her whole body froze. Han thought something was wrong. He reached out to take the bowl away, afraid that he had made a mistake, but then he saw her face. Tears were falling from her eyes. Silent tears, rolling down her scaled cheeks. She was crying. She drank the rest of the soup in 3 big gulps. Then she looked at Han with an expression he did not understand. Wonder, confusion, something like joy. "More," she whispered. "Please." More. Han brought her more soup, then more rice, then some eggs. She ate everything he gave her. She ate like someone who had never tasted food before. She ate like someone who had been starving not just for days, but for her whole life. When she was done, she looked at Han with tears still in her eyes. What was that?" she asked. Her words were getting clearer now. She was learning fast. "Food," Han said simply. "Just food." She shook her head. "Not just food. Something. More. Something." She could not find the words. She pressed her hand against her chest. against her heart. Something here, inside. Han did not understand what she meant. But he could see that something had changed in her. The color was coming back to her scales. Her eyes were starting to glow again. Just a little. Whatever had been wrong with her, the food was helping. Nari came running into the room. She had been listening from the doorway. "Are you really a dragon?" she asked, her eyes bright with excitement. The creature looked at the little girl. Something soft appeared in her expression. Something gentle. "I am Yuri," she said. "Princess of the Drakari. But yes, I am. Something like a dragon." Nari's smile was like the sun coming out from behind clouds. "I knew it," she said. "I knew dragons were real." Yuri looked at Han. Her eyes were full of questions. "Why?" she asked. "Why did you help me? You do not know me. I am not like you." Han thought about the question. He thought about his wife, who had always told him to be kind. He thought about his daughter, who saw a dragon instead of a monster. He thought about the look on Yuri's face when he found her. That look of total despair. "Because you needed help," he said. "That's reason enough." Yuri stared at him for a long moment. Then she bowed her head, a gesture of deep respect. "Thank you," she said. "I will not forget this. I owe you my life." Han shook his head. "You don't owe me anything. Just rest. Get better. We can figure out the rest later." And so the dragon princess stayed in the small house of the single father and his daughter. The world outside did not know she was there. The stars above held their secrets, and in that quiet place, something new was beginning. Something none of them could have predicted. 3 days passed. Yuri grew stronger. Her wounds were healing. Her scales were getting their shine back. Her wings were still broken, but they would mend with time. She spent most of her days on the couch, watching the strange world outside the window. Everything was so different from her home. On her planet, the sky was always gray. The buildings were all metal and glass, cold and perfect. There were no trees, no birds, no small creatures running through the grass. Everything was controlled. Everything was ordered. Everything was the same. But here, on Earth, everything was alive. The sky changed colors throughout the day. Blue in the morning, white in the afternoon, orange and pink in the evening. Trees moved in the wind. Birds sang songs outside the window. Small insects flew through the air. It was chaos. Beautiful, wonderful chaos. Nari spent every free moment with Yuri. She asked 1,000 questions. What was space like? Did Yuri really fly? Were there other dragons? Did she breathe fire? Yuri answered as best she could. She found herself smiling more than she had in years. The little girl's joy was contagious. Han went to work during the day. He left food for Yuri and asked Nari to take care of her. When he came home in the evening, he always cooked dinner. Yuri watched him from the couch. She watched the way he moved in the kitchen, the way he chopped vegetables, the way he stirred pots, the way he tasted things and added more of this or that. It was strange to her. On her world, no one cooked. The nutrient paste was made by machines. It came out of dispensers in gray tubes. You squeezed it into your mouth and swallowed. That was it. There was no preparation, no care, no art. But Han cooked like it was a sacred ritual. He took his time. He paid attention to every detail. He seemed to put something of himself into every dish. On the 4th night, Han made something special. He called it kimchi jjigae. It was a stew, red and bubbling, with vegetables and tofu and meat. The smell filled the entire house. It was rich and complex, spicy and sour and deep. "This was my wife's favorite dish," Han said as he set the table. "She used to make it for me when we first got married. I learned from her." Yuri saw the sadness in his eyes when he spoke of his wife. She had learned that Mina had died 3 years ago, a sickness that could not be cured. Han had been alone since then, raising Nari by himself. They sat at the table together. Han, Nari, and Yuri. It was the first time Yuri had eaten at a table like this. On her world, meals were private. You ate alone. Quickly. Efficiently. There was no sharing. No conversation. No togetherness. Han put a bowl of the stew in front of Yuri. Steam rose from it, carrying that incredible smell. Yuri looked at it. Her heart was beating fast. She did not know why. She picked up the spoon and took a bite. The flavor hit her like a wave. It was hot. It burned her tongue. But the burn was good. It woke up something inside her. The taste was unlike anything she had ever experienced. Sour from the kimchi. Spicy from the peppers. Rich from the meat. Soft from the tofu. Every ingredient was different, but they all worked together. They created something greater than their parts. Yuri put down her spoon. She could not move. She could not speak. Something was happening inside her. Something she did not understand. Tears began to fall from her eyes. She had cried before, when she was dying in the forest. But those tears had been from despair. These tears were different. These tears came from somewhere deep inside her. From a place she did not know existed. "Yuri," Han said, his voice worried. "Are you okay? Is something wrong?" Yuri shook her head. She tried to speak, but the words caught in her throat. She took a breath. Then another. "This," she finally said, pointing at the bowl. "This is not just food." Han looked confused. "It's kimchi jjigae. It's pretty simple, actually." "No," Yuri said. "You do not understand. My people, we eat nutrient paste. It has everything our bodies need. Proteins, vitamins, minerals, everything. But it has nothing. Nothing like this." She pressed her hand against her chest. Her heart was still beating fast. "This has something inside it," she said. "Something I can feel. Something that goes beyond nutrition." "What is it? What did you put in this?" Han thought for a moment. He looked at his daughter, then back at Yuri. "I don't know if I can explain it," he said. "When I cook, I think about the people I'm cooking for. I think about what they like, what will make them happy, what will make them feel good. I put care into it. I put love. I guess, love." Yuri knew the word. Her translation matrix had given her the definition. A deep affection for another being. But the definition did not match what she was feeling now. The definition was cold and simple. What she was feeling was warm and complex. "Your people," she said slowly. "You put love into your food?" "Some of us do," Han said. "Not everyone. But the best food is made with love. That's what my wife always said." Yuri looked down at the bowl. The stew was still steaming. Still waiting. She took another bite. And another. Each bite brought more tears. But she did not stop. She could not stop. She ate the entire bowl. Then Han gave her another. She ate that too. When she was finally done, she felt full. But it was a different kind of full. Not just her stomach. Her whole being felt satisfied. Complete. For the first time in her life, she felt truly nourished. "On my world," Yuri said, her voice quiet, "we believe that efficiency is the highest virtue. Everything must have a purpose. Everything must be optimized. Food is fuel. Nothing more. We removed taste from our nutrient paste centuries ago. Taste was considered a distraction, an inefficiency." She looked at Han with new eyes. "We removed something important," she said. "We removed something essential. We were so focused on feeding our bodies that we forgot to feed our souls." Nari was listening with wide eyes. She did not understand everything, but she understood enough. "That's sad," she said. "Food should be yummy. That's the whole point." Yuri laughed. It was a strange sound, rough and unused. She could not remember the last time she had laughed. "Yes," she said. "You are right, little one. Food should be yummy, That is the whole point. She looked at Han. Will you teach me? Teach you what? He asked. To cook, like you do, with love. Han smiled. It was a warm smile, full of kindness. Of course, he said. We can start tomorrow. That night, Yuri lay on the couch and thought about everything that had happened. She had lost her father. She had lost her home. She had lost her throne. She had lost everything she thought mattered. But tonight, she had found something new. Something her people had forgotten long ago. She had found the warmth that food could carry. The love that could be shared through a simple meal. The connection between beings who ate together. It was not a small thing. It was not an inefficiency. It was perhaps the most important thing she had ever discovered. Outside the window, the stars were shining. Somewhere up there, her uncle sat on her father's throne. Somewhere up there, bounty hunters were searching for her. Somewhere up there, an empire continued to eat tasteless paste and call it progress. But here, in this small house on this small planet, a dragon princess was learning what it meant to truly eat. And for the first time since her father's death, she felt something like hope. Tomorrow, she would learn to cook. Tomorrow, she would take her first step into a new world. A world where food was more than fuel. A world where meals were made with love. She closed her eyes and slept peacefully for the first time in weeks. In her dreams, she saw her father. He was smiling. And somehow, she knew he would have approved. Weeks passed. Yuri's body healed. Her broken wing mended. Her scales returned to their full beauty, shimmering purple and silver in the light. She could move freely now. She could even fly short distances, though she stayed close to the house. She did not want anyone to see her. She did not want to cause trouble for Han and Nari. Every day, she learned something new about Earth, about humans, about food. Han taught her to cook, just as he had promised. They started with simple things: rice, eggs, soup. Yuri was not good at first. She burned the rice. She broke the eggs wrong. She added too much salt to the soup. But Han was patient. He never got angry. He just smiled and showed her again. Cooking is not about being perfect, he told her. It's about trying. It's about caring. The love matters more than the technique. Yuri did not fully understand at first. On her world, everything was about perfection. If you made a mistake, you were punished. If you failed, you were shamed. There was no room for trying. There was only success or failure. But Han's kitchen was different. Mistakes were allowed. Mistakes were expected. And somehow, through all the mistakes, Yuri began to learn. She learned that rice needed to be washed before cooking. She learned that eggs could be prepared in 100 different ways. She learned that soup needed time. You could not rush it. You had to let the flavors come together slowly, naturally. She learned that cooking was like meditation. When she stood at the stove, stirring a pot, all her worries faded away. She forgot about her uncle. She forgot about her lost throne. She forgot about the empire that wanted her dead. There was only the food, only the process, only the moment. But the most important lesson came on a quiet morning. 2 months after her crash, Yuri woke early. The sun was just coming up. The house was quiet. She walked to the kitchen and found Han already there. He was making something at the counter. She watched from the doorway, curious. Han was making a lunchbox for Nari. He worked slowly and carefully. He cooked rice and shaped it into small triangles. He wrapped them in seaweed. He fried some vegetables and arranged them neatly in the box. He made little sausages and cut them to look like tiny octopuses. He added some fruit, cut into flower shapes. Then he did something that made Yuri stop breathing. He made kimbap, small rolls of rice and vegetables wrapped in seaweed. But he did not make them round. He made them in the shape of hearts. Perfect little hearts. Each one the same size, arranged in a careful row. Nari was going on a school trip that day. She would be gone all day, eating lunch with her classmates, And Han was making sure that her lunch would be special, beautiful, full of love. Yuri walked into the kitchen. Han looked up and smiled. "You're awake early," he said. "The hearts," Yuri said, pointing at the kimbap. "Why did you make them that shape?" Han looked down at his work. He seemed almost embarrassed. "Nari likes it," he said. "When her mother was alive, Mina always made heart-shaped kimbap for special days. I'm not as good at it as she was, but I try." Yuri stared at the lunchbox. It was so small, so simple, just a box of food for a child. But to Yuri, it was the most beautiful thing she had ever seen. "On my world," she said quietly, "parents do not make food for their children. The dispensers do. A child goes to the dispenser, presses a button, and receives their nutrient paste. The same paste everyone else gets. The same paste their parents get. There is no difference. No special treatment. No love." She reached out and touched one of the heart-shaped kimbap. It was still warm. "Your people put love into everything," she said. "Not just food. Everything. The way you raise your children. The way you care for each other. The way you live your lives. There is love in all of it." Han was quiet for a moment. He finished packing the lunchbox and closed the lid. "Not all of us," he said. "Humans can be cruel too. We have wars. We have hatred. We hurt each other all the time. But you have this," Yuri said, pointing at the lunchbox. "You have the capacity for this, my people. We forgot how. Or maybe we never knew. We were so focused on power and efficiency that we lost something essential." Ender 5. She thought about her father. He had been a good emperor, fair and wise. But had he ever loved her like this? Had he ever made her something with his own hands? Just to see her smile, she could not remember a single time. It was not his fault. It was simply not their way. Drakari did not express love through action. They expressed it through words, through formal declarations, through political alliances. Love was a concept, not a practice. But here, on Earth, love was different. Love was in the small things. A heart-shaped piece of food. A warm meal after a long day. A father waking up early to make his daughter's lunch special. "Han," Yuri said, "I need to tell you something." Han looked at her, waiting. "When I came here, I had lost all hope. I thought my life was over. I thought there was nothing left to live for. My father was dead. My home was gone. My purpose was destroyed." She took a deep breath. "But you and Nari showed me something. Something I never knew existed. You showed me that there is more to life than power. More to existence than efficiency. There is warmth. There is connection. There is love in the small things." Tears were forming in her eyes again. She had cried more in the past 2 months than in her entire life before. "I want to stay," she said. "Not forever. I know I cannot hide here forever. But I want to stay as long as I can. I want to learn more. I want to understand more. I want to become more." Han smiled. He reached out and put his hand on her shoulder. It was a simple gesture. A human gesture. But it meant everything. "You're welcome here as long as you want," he said. "You're part of our family now. Family." The word hit Yuri like a blow. On her world, family meant bloodlines and duty. It meant political obligations and arranged marriages. It meant cold formality and calculated distance. But Han meant something different. He meant belonging. He meant acceptance. He meant love without conditions. Nari came running into the kitchen, still in her pajamas. "Is my lunch ready?" she asked excitedly. "Is it? Is it?" Han handed her the lunchbox. Nari opened it and gasped with delight. "Hearts," she squealed. "You made hearts." She threw her arms around her father and hugged him tight. Then she turned and hugged Yuri too. "Thank you for being here," Nari whispered. "I'm glad you came from space." Yuri hugged the little girl back. She felt something warm spreading through her chest. It was not the fire of her draconic nature. It was something gentler, something better. It was love, real love, the kind she had been missing her whole life. That day, while Nari was at school, Yuri helped Han with the housework. They cleaned together. They cooked together. They talked about small things and important things. They laughed at silly jokes. They sat in comfortable silence. By the time Nari came home, full of stories about her trip, Yuri had made a decision. She would not just learn to cook. She would not just learn about human customs. She would learn to love like humans did, with actions, with care, with her whole heart. And someday, when she was ready, she would bring this knowledge back to her people. She would show them what they had lost. She would teach them what food could really mean. But that was for later. For now, she was exactly where she needed to be. In a small kitchen, in a small house, with a small family that had welcomed her as their own. It was enough. It was more than enough. It was everything. 6 months had passed since Yuri fell from the sky. She had changed in ways she never thought possible. She could cook now. Not just simple things, but complex dishes that took hours to prepare. She made kimchi jjigae that Han said was almost as good as his wife's. She made kimbap with perfectly shaped hearts. She made japchae and bulgogi and samgyeopsal. But more than cooking, she had learned to live, to truly live, not just exist. She helped Nari with her homework. She played games with her in the backyard. She braided her hair in the morning and told her stories about the stars at night. She had become something she never expected to be. She had become a mother. And Han. What was Han to her? She did not have a word for it. On her world, relationships were defined by titles and roles. Emperor, princess, lord, servant. But Han was none of those things. He was something simpler and more complicated at the same time. He was the man who had saved her life, the man who had taught her to cook, the man who made her laugh and made her think, the man whose smile made her hearts beat faster. Yes, hearts. Drakari had too. She had not told him how she felt. She was afraid. Afraid of rejection. Afraid of changing what they had. Afraid of admitting that a dragon princess had fallen for a human construction worker, but she did not need to tell him. Some things did not need words. They lived in the comfortable silences, in the shared meals, in the way their eyes met across the table. It was a peaceful life, simple and good. Yuri almost let herself believe it could last forever. Then the ships came. It was evening. They were eating dinner together, laughing about something Nari had said at school. The lights flickered. The ground shook. Through the window, Yuri saw them, 3 Drakari warships, descending from the clouds. Their black hulls blocked out the stars. Their engines lit up the night like angry suns. Yuri's blood went cold. "What is that?" Nari asked, her voice small and scared. Yuri stood up. Her scales were hardening, preparing for battle. Her eyes were glowing bright orange. "They found me," she said. "They finally found me." Han stood up too. His face was pale, but his voice was steady. "What do we do?" Yuri looked at him. At Nari. At the small kitchen where she had learned so much. At the table where they had shared so many meals. She had 2 choices. She could run. She could try to escape. To find another planet. Another hiding place. Or she could face them. Face her uncle. Face her past. She chose the third option. The one they would never expect. She walked outside. The ships had landed in the field behind the house. Soldiers were marching out. Dozens of them. All armed. All ready for battle. In the center was a figure Yuri knew well. Tall. Powerful. Scales as black as midnight. Lord Tejo, her uncle, the murderer who sat on her father's throne. He smiled when he saw her. It was a cold smile. A cruel smile. "Dear niece," he said, "you have led us on quite a chase. Hiding on this primitive world. Living among these creatures." He looked at the house with disgust. "Have you no pride? Yuri did not answer. She just stood there, her wings spread wide, her body ready. It does not matter, Tejo continued. You are coming with us. You will face trial for your father's murder. You will be found guilty, and you will be executed. The Empire demands justice. I did not kill my father, Yuri said. Her voice was calm. You did. You murdered him in his sleep. You took his crown. You blamed me to hide your crime. Tejo laughed. Who will believe you? I am the Emperor now. My word is law. My truth is the only truth. I do not care about your truth, Yuri said. I do not care about your throne. I do not care about your empire. Tejo's smile faded. What? Yuri stood taller. She felt something building inside her. Not anger, not fear. Something else. Something stronger. I came to this world broken, she said. I came here with nothing. No hope. No purpose. No will to live. I thought I had lost everything that mattered. She looked back at the house. Han and Nari were standing in the doorway, watching. Nari was holding her father's hand, but I was wrong. Yuri continued. I had not lost everything. I had never found the things that truly matter. Love. Family. Connection. The warmth of a shared meal. The joy of caring for someone. The peace of belonging. She turned back to Tejo. Her eyes were blazing now. I found those things here. Among these humans. In this small house. At a kitchen table. I found more meaning in one bowl of soup than in 300 years of palace life. Tejo's face twisted with confusion and anger. You have gone mad, he said. This planet has corrupted you. These creatures have poisoned your mind. No, Yuri said. They have healed it. They have shown me what our people forgot long ago. We became so focused on power that we forgot why power matters. We became so obsessed with efficiency that we removed everything beautiful from our lives. We are dragons who have forgotten how to love. She spread her wings wider. Fire was building in her throat. The ancient fire of her ancestors. The fire that had not been used in generations. I am not going with you, she said. I am staying here. This is my home now. These are my people now. And I will protect them with my life. Tejo raised his hand. The soldiers aimed their weapons. You cannot fight us all, he said. You are one. We are many. Surrender now, and I will make your death quick. Yuri smiled. It was not a cruel smile. It was a sad smile. You still do not understand, she said. I am not fighting for myself. I am fighting for them. And that makes all the difference. She opened her mouth and roared. Fire erupted from her throat. Not the pale fire of modern Drakari. The true fire. The golden fire. The fire that burned not with heat, but with something more. With love. With protection. With the desperate need to keep her family safe. The soldiers fell back. Even Tejo stepped away. They had never seen fire like this. They did not know how to fight it. Tell your people something, Yuri said. Tell them that the princess is dead. Tell them she burned up on this worthless planet. Tell them whatever lie you want. But never come back here. Never threaten my family again, because if you do, I will not just fight you. I will show the entire empire what I have learned. I will teach our people what food can really be, what love can really mean, and your cold, efficient empire will crumble from the inside. Tejo stared at her. For the first time, Yuri saw fear in his eyes. Not fear of her fire, fear of her words. Fear of what she had become. You would start a revolution, he said. Over food? Over love, Yuri corrected. Food is just how we share it. A long silence followed. The soldiers waited. Tejo considered. The night held its breath. Then, slowly, Tejo lowered his hand. Keep your little planet, he said. Keep your primitive creatures. But know this, if you ever return, you will die. I will not return, Yuri said. I have found a better place. The soldiers retreated to their ships. The engines fired. One by one, the black hulls rose into the sky and disappeared among the stars. Yuri stood alone in the field for a long moment. The fire faded from her throat. The battle was over. She had won. Not with strength. Not with power. With something her people had forgotten. She turned and walked back to the house. Han and Nari were waiting for her. Nari ran forward and hugged her tight. You were so brave, she whispered. You were amazing. Yuri hugged her back. She looked at Han over the little girl's head. He was smiling. His eyes were wet. Thank you, he said. For protecting us. Yuri shook her head. Thank you. For giving me something worth protecting. They went inside together. The kitchen was still warm. The food was still on the table. As if nothing had happened. As if the universe had not just changed. They sat down and finished their dinner. Yuri ate slowly, savoring every bite. Tasting not just the food, but the love that had made it. The love that had saved her. The love that had changed everything. Outside, the stars were shining. Somewhere up there, her uncle was flying back to an empire of cold efficiency. Somewhere up there, millions of Drakari were eating tasteless paste and calling it enough. But here, in this small kitchen, a dragon had found her home. A princess had become a mother. A warrior had learned to cook, and humanity, without knowing it, had taught the stars how to love again. Nari looked up from her plate. Can we have pancakes tomorrow? She asked. Yuri smiled. Han laughed. Of course, Yuri said. I'll make them myself. Heart-shaped, just like you like. And so they lived, not happily ever after, because life is never that simple. But happily enough. In a small house, at a small table, sharing small meals that meant everything. That was more than enough. That was everything. That was love.